All right. Hello, hello, hello. So, the latest patch, the latest update. Okay. Right now I'm doing 1029. 1029 is the new 923 in terms of gold farming. Um, would not advise it, however, if you still have a bunch of heroes that you need to upgrade, because you don't get any fragments from this. You don't get any XP potions from this. You don't get any runes. You don't get any books for rune crafting or scrolls. Excuse me. Um, and the only type of gear that you get is Technomagic raid gear, which really the only person you'd want to even put that gear on is your DPS um, for the purpose of clearing the content. But even that, I kind of would advise against. It's a waste of gold if you have a good box set, because you don't need the damage increase against the mobs approaching Ascalon. You just need the Bach gear once you get to Ascalon. Of course, once you have actual Technomagic gear from the raids, which we're going to go over in a moment, that's what you would wear here most likely. And that's pretty much where everything is going now. It's going to TMG gear, the Technomagic gear, and a lot of people, and myself included in the beginning especially, were just really, really let down by this patch. And yes, there are a lot of problems with it. If you approach it the way that most people are approaching it. But there is a way to actually approach TMG that isn't going to make you mauled, okay? Like I did in the beginning. I was going off the mouth in, Discord. And finally, my guildies were like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, seriously, like, you're just really toxic at the moment, which I was definitely that way. But I had my reasons for feeling that way, as I'm sure all of you do, and I was playing devil's advocate to pretty much all of the responses I was getting. Um, and the thing I was most upset about was the fact that I couldn't just go and instantly clear stage 6 of all of the various new raids. I was just irate because I'm thinking, as well invested as I am in this game, this is so freaking stupid that as one of the highest level accounts in the game, I can't even beat stage 6 of any of the new bosses solo. Right? I'm sitting here thinking, God, this is dumb. And I just went off. Okay. Now, I don't care now. I don't care about that now. So many things have happened since then. First of all, you can just clear it and get the achievement with a teammate, okay, with a friend from within the game, a fellow guildie, whatever. Okay, it's not like you're stuck having to solo it for the achievement. This isn't like Trial of Flow or Trial of Earth or Trial of Sky, right? This content first and foremost is meant to encourage team co-op, okay, for the higher level, stages of the raids, okay. But as far as farming is concerned, this is where there's been the highest amount of controversy. So several folks have indicated, the ideal would be to solo clear and farm stage 5 of Galgoria, which I don't disagree. Galgoria is actually the one to farm, but stage 5, I'm going to go ahead and give that a big NO. Do not farm stage 5, even if you can. I can, but I don't. Why? Well, there's a whole host of reasons. One, it's 140 stamina per stage clear. And each stage clear, for me, takes about a minute and a half to 2 minutes. And that's not including the loading screens and cycling between each wave. So we're going to go with an average of about 215, 230 between each run. Now, I want to preface everything I'm about to say on the merit of this is assuming you buy stamina. If you don't buy stamina, then you want to try to clear the highest stage you can possibly clear, 100%. But if you do buy stamina, you definitely want to spam stage 1 of Ascalon. Now, some of you may be scratching your heads as to why. The only difference between stage 1 and 5 is that stage 5 will allow you to get reclaimed gear in a random drop. But the drop rate for reclaimed gear is incredibly low. It goes up a tick when you are able to clear stage 6, but at the end of the day, it's still an incredibly low drop rate for reclaimed gear. Now, reclaimed gear, let's talk about reclaimed gear for a moment. Reclaimed gear is basically equivalent to going to tier 10, okay? The only difference is the stat lines don't actually go up on reclaimed gear as far as your options are concerned. They only go up as far as the base stats. So let's say we're talking about earrings. So like a base set of Ascalon or any of the other TMG earrings, I think have 28,000 attack, which is more than a 5-star piece of T8 gear, okay? So even a 0-star piece of TMG has more attack than a 5-star piece of T8 gear. Now, if you advance that and bring it into a reclaimed state, or you get a reclaimed set right out of the gate, then the reclaimed set's going to have more attack. I think it's 35,000 base attack from a set of reclaimed earrings. So it's quite a bit more base attack on a set of reclaimed gear. But here is the thing. For you to improve your various clear rates and scores on all of the content within the game, even in PvP, World Boss, you name it, you're still getting a massive upgrade by going into just base non-reclaimed TMG gear. And why would you spend 40% more stamina clearing stage 5 for a drop rate that is effectively maybe 5% better, observably 5 to 10% better at most? So you're going to spend 40% more stamina for a 5 to 10% increased drop rate of the same gear. Now you may be scratching your heads and saying, well, what about the crystal? What about the crystals that I can use to craft? Listen, you're still getting a lot of crystals doing stage 1, especially right now while there's a boost on. Now, this advice kind of shifts once the boost is off, because once the boost is off, then it would actually make more sense to use all of the TMG gear that you've retrieved and put that onto your team, and then maybe start doing stage 2 or 3, but incrementally going up. The goal is fast clears. The goal is to get gear as quickly as possible to put a set together and be competitive in all the various content that you're doing as soon as you possibly can. And when I did, I'm going to stop this right here actually. When I was doing stage 2 and stage 3 for an hour at a time of Ascalon, okay, I would queue in my stamina and I would let it run for an hour. I actually got less TMG gear running stage 2, 3, and 4 than I did doing 1. Now that is random. It is random. I'm just saying I'm capable of getting more TMG gear doing stage 1. Now it's the same type of gear. The only thing is I got less of the crystallized, boss crystals. However, I also was able to do more runs. So did it come out as in a wash? Well, that's all kind of relative. Think of it this way. I was able to get in a 1 hour run speed clear of Galgoria stage 1, I was able to get in 1 hour 6 pieces one time, 3 pieces another time, 2 pieces another time, 7 pieces another time. So let's just go off the aggregate average there. We'll just go with 4. When I did stage 2, for an hour at a time on 2 separate occasions, on both occasions I got 2 pieces of gear. When I did stage 3, on one occasion I got 4 pieces of gear, and on one occasion I got 1 piece of gear. And on stage 4, I did that actually more than any other stage, solo wise. And even on about 6 hours of just running stage 4 in auto, not dispatched, just running stage 4 in auto, I was only able to get 8 pieces of gear in total. So the fact that on my best hour in stage 1, I was able to get 7 pieces of gear, and in 4 hours combined on stage 4, I was only able to get 8, should tell you the fact that the drop rates are all over the place. And why waste more stamina to get gear from stage 2, 3, or 4, or 5, whatever, when you can get just as much gear potentially from stage 1. I mean, nothing's guaranteed. It's all RNG. So it's completely random. My point is, why spend 10, 20, 30, 40% more stamina for potentially the same results, only to get more crystallized power, when it takes 1,000 of the crystallized boss power, or whatever it's called, to craft 1 piece of gear. If you are consistently saving 40% of your stamina by doing stage 1, and you are getting 1 or 2 extra pieces of TMG gear, that's like getting 2,000 crystallized boss crystals. You following here? So think about that. That is a very significant thing to take into consideration. And I'm going to do some math here once I get this set up. I want to show you all something very interesting. So let me go ahead and load this up, and we'll start letting this do some clears, and I'm going to start crunching some numbers. Wow, come on. Can you go any slower here, people? By the way, this is going to be like a multi-part series, okay? It's really, if you really want to get a full perspective of the way I have broken this all down, it's important that you watch all the various parts. I'm going to run the mouth. I'm just going to talk, and I would say just go, it's going to be like a podcast. It's going to have multiple parts, so just listen, and we'll go from there. Come on, what the fuck? This game is so buggy sometimes. It'll be good. Come on. Well, while it's doing its thing, oh, there we go. Okay. So the bottom line is, I'm going to get, I believe it's 18 boss crystals on stage 1. And on stage 4, we'll verify it. Stage 5, we'll verify it, but I think it's 42. So let me just grab my calculator here real quick. And let's see here. Okay, so geez, you see that DPS? It's obscene. It's so fast. Do you see that? That was like a 10, 11 second clear. So freaking fast. All right, so let's see how much boss crystals we get here. And this is another reason to do stage 1. Okay, so I got 18. Let's stop. And let's take a look and see what you get on stage 2, 3, 4, okay? And let's go with the assumption that by doing stage 1, you're saving, because I mean, let's go based off the different. I mean, honestly, stage 1 versus stage 4, you may as well just do stage 1 because you're not getting reclaimed. So the big money shot is to go between stage 1 and stage 5. So let's analyze the pros and cons between going for 5. The big pro for 5 is that you can get reclaimed gear. But watch this. So if I go to stage 1, it says here, the higher the stage, the more crystals you can obtain. The drop rate for Galgoria gear set gear will also increase along with the difficulty of the stage. They say the same thing in the Dragon Raids in the hard mode. It's not true. I mean, it is in the way that the code is written, but in terms of what is observable and what is actually happening, that's just not true, especially when you take into account the fact that you're spending more stamina. So the increase in stamina is not scaling with the increase in drop rate. It's not like when I spend 10% more stamina, I have a 10% higher drop rate. That's not the case, especially between stage 1 and 5. So if you're doing stage 1 at 100 stamina per shot and you're doing stage 5 at 140, that's 40% more stamina, but you're not experiencing a 40% higher drop rate. If you were, guess what? This video wouldn't even be happening right now, okay? But it might be like a 4% drop rate. I think it literally is maybe increasing your drop rate by maybe at most 1 to 2% per stage. It's nil. So, and then you gain the ability to get reclaimed gear over there in stage 5. But as far as what is observable, what my tests have shown in almost 48 hours of running this continuously, both in dispatch and in auto, and dispatch was mainly for testing purposes to see if whether or not I was getting more from chests than I was, more of the gear from chests than I was from doing it on auto. And the reality is I was getting more on auto anyway, and I may as well do auto, especially now because there's a boost in effect, so I'm getting more crystallized power. If I was observing a higher drop rate of gear from the chests in dispatch, I would say do dispatch just so that way you're able to go and do other things in the game while your team's dispatching. But because even if you only average one more piece of gear per clear, guess what? That one additional piece of gear is worth 1,000 crystals. So you figure normally you're going to get 9 crystals on stage 1. It's going to be 2x whatever you normally get. So let's go to stage 5, for instance. Okay. So the rewards on stage 5 are so much gear. So you get 48. So you normally get 24. Okay. You normally would get 24 here. Right now you're getting 48. I'm getting 18 on doing stage 1. So I'm getting a total of 30 additional crystals, boss crystals, from doing stage 1. Now, let's do 100. So 100 runs would be 14,000 stamina. Okay? And we're going to multiply, we're going to do 1,400, which would give me 140 runs, 100 runs, times the 48, which is going to give me a total of 4,800 boss crystals of Galgoria. Okay? Now, this is where it gets interesting. And we're not taking into account any gear here, right? We're not taking that into account. So I get 4,800 doing stage 5 100 times for a total cost of 14,000 stamina. Now, if I do stage 1, which is 10,000 stamina, 100 times, I'm going to get 1,800. So I'm going to get a total of 3,000 less pieces of random non-reclaimed gear. But based on my runs that I've been doing, I get, number one, I get 40 additional runs on stage 1 for the same amount of stamina. So 10,000 stamina on stage 1 is going to give me not only more gear, so all I would need to get to close that gap is 3 pieces of gear more, which I have observed as happening. And I don't know if maybe the game takes into account how quickly you are clearing the stage, because as you saw there in that first run I did, I cleared the stage in incredibly fast time. I mean, it was like 10 to 12, 13 seconds, something like that. And at the end of the day, I get more gear from stage 1 than I do from 5. Okay? That's been my observation. But even if it was exactly the same, okay, I get 40 additional runs with the same amount of stamina that I would have spent on 5, and that will close the gap. Why, you may ask? Because I have been averaging on 100 runs, which takes about an hour and a half or so. Well, let's just go back to an hour's worth of runs. In 1 hour, on stage 1, I was able to achieve 7 was the highest, 4 was my average. Now, of course, we're looking at it from a time metric. Let's look at it from a pure run average. Even when you look at my breakdown of how much I get per run, I still was averaging a higher amount per run on stage 1 than I was on stage 2, 3, 4, or 5. By an average of about, let's say on 100 runs of stage 1, I was averaging about 3 additional pieces of gear per 100 runs over stage 5. So the bottom line is that it would cost me 1,000 crystallized power, crystallized boss tokens, or whatever you call them, to create that additional gear. Okay? And I'm still up, 40% stamina because I've done stage 1. I got 3 more pieces of gear. 3 pieces of gear is worth 3,000 crystallized tokens. That's how much more I was getting from doing stage 5. Remember, I was getting 4,800 by doing stage 5 for a cost of 1,400 stamina, and I was getting 1,800 for doing stage 1 at a cost of 10,000 stamina. So, and I ended up with 3 additional pieces of gear on stage 1. So that closed the gap. And I still have all the stamina that I saved not doing stage 5 to do additional runs and get even more gear and actually create a net positive gain over stage 5. Now, will I have ended up with any reclaimed gear? No. Will I have ended up with any reclaimed gear having done stage 5? I don't know. Maybe. But you know how long stage 5 takes? Stage 5 takes about 4 times as long to clear. And if your goal is to get into the game now and start using this new gear and start getting as many pieces as possible and figuring out what makes sense and what gear is good and what gear isn't, etc., guess what? Do stage 1 to get the gear quick, okay? So that would be my breakdown of why I do stage 1, okay? That's kind of just part 1 of this whole thing. I am going to start up a second video here shortly for a part 2, and that's the other thing. Whew. That's the other thing right there. I'll go over that in the next video. Let me go ahead and get that started.